بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. So in this book, تهذيب موعظة المؤمنين, which is a summary of Al-Ghazali's Ihya Ulum al-Din. He speaks on آفات اللسان, جمل من آفات اللسان, pitfalls of the tongue, things to watch out for, to look out for, ways that people slip and fall on their faces because of their tongues. Afatul lisan, danger that can come from your tongue, things that you have to be vigilant and watchful concerning what you can possibly say or speak or utter. Afatul lisan, problems with the tongue. So we're going to move forward, inshallah ta'ala, to al-afatu sabi'ah wal-afatu thamina. Number 7, he mentions about 10. 7 and 8, he says, al-fuhshu was-sabbu wa-badha'atul lisan. Being obscene, being lewd, and being provocative with your speech. And then number 9, he says, number 8, al-afatu thamina, al-la'n, cursing. So there's lying, there's backbiting, there's mockery, etc., things that people do with their tongues. But these two are very, very common and very prevalent. متفشي في تقريبا كل مجتمع. And that is, people are very obscene with their words. And obviously you can branch off from this one discussion. Music, movies, working with heedless Muslims, let alone non-Muslims, racism. A big part of obscenity, cursing, and lewdness is racism. And that is because there are many races who make it seem that one race is the only race that uses this type of language or words. Okay? And obviously, if you study the history of the United States, what was this, the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, there were different evolutions of music and of a genre of music. And there were people who were trying to ban a certain genre from becoming very popular. And one of the reasons why they were trying to ban it, they were legally trying to prohibit it. You can't make music like this because the lyrics were very harsh, full of lewdness, obscenity, cursing, slander, and so on and so forth. And obviously these politicians, like most legislation, this is important for every Muslim, regardless of where you come from, regardless of your race. If you look at most legislation in this country, the history of it is based off of racism. And it's based off of a double standard, such as drugs. Sit down and look at the history of drugs in this country, whether it be alcohol, whether it be cocaine, and obviously marijuana now being legal recreational. But there was a time not that long ago in which these things were looked down upon, and they first started making a legislation to prohibit these things because of certain races. So the Prohibition era. When the Irish drink, alcohol is evil. When the English drink, those from Anglo-Saxon background, then it's okay. It's reality. These people, cocaine is normal. It used to be in soda. You could go to the drugstore. It's something you can just purchase it like a pill. Novocaine, cocaine, it's all the same. But when this race, for these type of people, when they use cocaine, then it's a problem. So they said that this music is bad. We can't allow people to make this music even though there's freedom of speech. So what did the musicians say? What was their defense? They said, well, the way that we talk in our lyrics is how you what? That's how you talk. When you're with your buddies and your pals, on your lunch break, you guys curse and this and that. Every 5 words is a goddamn, is a curse, is a slander. So what's our sin and what's our harm? Now stop and think about this now. If you don't work with non-Muslims, or you work with pious Muslims, you get on a train or the airport, you see the white collar professional, the 3-piece suit and tie, sit behind them on the train. And they don't know that you're sitting behind them, or they do know. How do they talk? Mamoon. Every 2 words is a what? Women. Or you think she's a ladylike woman, dainty. You find the right one, She has a mouth, like we say, like a sailor. So people, they want to put certain people in classes and categories with regards to obscene language. A movie, perfect example. And this goes back to that law. The rappers, they can't use that language. But in a movie, totally fine. Kids want to watch that movie? Of course. Young teenagers watching that movie? Of course. People wanting to be like this actor or this gangster in the movie that's every 2 seconds cursing, slandering, God damn it, such and such much. That's totally fine. But you, from this race, and a rap song, no. That's a bad influence. And this is applicable, as I said, to any law you'll find in the history of America. The origin of the law was based off of one race is superior and another race is inferior. Islam has given the ultimate solution. Cursing is bad. Joking, laughing, harmless, lying, white lie, is impermissible. You are to be conscious of your tongue. And from the things that most people lack consciousness concerning with regards to their tongue is cursing and slandering. Something happens to you, you get into a car accident, what do most people say? You cut yourself, you pinch yourself, you step on something, God damn it. A mother this, a sister that. You this, you that. You put up your middle finger, you beep your horn. So it's very, 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 very prevalent. What movies are our children watching? Should they be watching movies? If they are, what are they watching? What songs do they have downloaded on their phones? Talk to your teenage son, Ahmed. See what's in his playlist, right? Spotify, Apple, whatever app. And you will be appalled and shocked at just the lyrics. Forget the message. Just the words that are being used every 2 seconds, every 2 words, it's a this and this or that. Some scholars say, scholars of psychology and human behavior, is that constant swearing, constant abuse, verbal abuse, is a sign of low intelligence. The person doesn't have a better word to use. He doesn't know how to articulate it. So is there a bleep, 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 and a this and a that. Cursing people also manifests lack of patience. And it also manifests weakness. Whereas anger, impulsive speech, impulsive behavior is a great manifestation of lack of control. You're screaming, you're shouting, you're mad because you're no longer in control of the situation. That's why you say, God damn it, you this, you that, you go to hell, so on and so forth. So you think about all of the bad things that come from people being obscene and lewd in their speech. And think of the same thing that you could have said in a different way. Cursing at your children, cursing your parents, domestic abuse. How does a man talk to his wife when he's angry? People say that Islam supports domestic abuse. Allah clearly says in the Quran, وَضْرِبُوهُنَّ, to hit women. So the Quran supports for a man to beat and to batter his wife. Okay, Islam prohibits obscene language. Islam prohibits you from getting angry. Islam prohibits so many things. You ever seen somebody beat their wife, calm and collective? You ever see a domestic abuse in which obscene language isn't used? Of course you haven't. And that's because the two, what? They go hand in hand. So we look at all of the wisdom of Islam and prohibiting lewdness, lewd speech, obscene speech, cursing, right? And look at all of the haram things that you'll fall into once you lose control over your tongue. And if you want to know the nature of a man, if you want to know what type of mind he has, what type of personality he has, what type of character he has, as Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala said, use the ladle, the big spoon, the dipper in soup. You want to taste the soup, you want to taste the broth. It's a whole large pot. How many quarts are in this pot? I don't know what the whole soup tastes like. The only thing I need to sample and savor the soup is what? That's it. And that's a person's speech. So a person that's cursing, every time they get angry, they get mad, you're this, your mother this, you're this, you're this, you're that, God damn it, damn. That shows a great deal of what's on the inside. Versus a person who has control, who knows what language to use and what language not to use. That shows a lot about the insides of that individual. So a lot can be said with regards to the benefits of not cursing. And a lot can be said with regards to the harms of cursing. And that is why people teach children how to curse at a young age. Your older brother, somebody on the block, your older cousin, they break your innocence and they get your language to be foul. And then it's very hard to go back to the pure way that you used to speak. The author, may Allah have mercy upon him, he says, وَهُوَ مَذْمُومٌ وَمَنْهِيٌ عَنْهُ وَمَصْدَرُهُ الْخُبْثُ وَاللُّؤْمُ قال عليه الصلاة والسلام ليس المؤمن بالطعان ولا اللعان ولا الفاحش ولا البذيء وعنه إن الله لا يحب الفاحش المتفاحش الصياح في الأسواق وحد الفحش هو التعبير عن الأمور المستقبحة بالعبارات الصريحة وأكثر ذلك يجري في ألفاظ الوقاع وما يتعلق به فإن لأهل الفساد عبارات صريحة فاحشة يستعملونها فيه وأهل الصلاح يتحاشون عنها بل يكنون عنها ويدلون عليها بالرموز والكناية. قال ابن عباس إن الله حيي كريم يعفو ويكني أو ويكني كنا باللمس عن الجماع فالمسيس واللمس والدخول كنايات عن الوقاع وليس بفاحشة وهناك عبارات فاحشة يستقبح ذكرها ويستعمل أكثرها في الشتم والتعيير وكل ما يستحي منه فلا ينبغي أن يذكر ألفاظه الصريحة فإنه فحش. He says that obscenity, lewdness, madhmoom, it is condemned in Islam. It's looked down upon. It's never a praiseworthy thing in the deen. To use that type of language and those types of words, it's never a good thing. And it is based off of khubth. He says inner filth and inner wretchedness. Stop and think about this. Somebody who curses like a sailor. What type of man is he? What type of person is he? How happy is he? How peaceful is he? How soft and kind and tender is he? And he may have a soft and tender, kind side, but he has an anger problem. And the moment he loses it and he slips, what comes out? The ugliness. And after he curses a person out, his son, his daughter, his nephew, his grandson, his wife, he calms down, he cools down. What's the first thing that he has to say? You know, I was what? I was just mad. I was just blowing off some steam. I really don't feel that about you. It's not how I feel. You know, just, come on, it's nothing. Why are you still mad? You still angry at how I talk to you? Get over it. Think about this. You soft, you sensitive. You take everything to heart. After I just said all types of vile words to you. So that's another harm of cursing and being obscene, is that you always have to apologize. And a man who constantly has to apologize, is something wrong with that man. He's not a complete man. You have to keep taking back everything that you say. Even in Islam, every 5 minutes you recant something, you take something back. I made a mistake, I said this. That's not a good thing. That's proven that you speak without that which is correct from the get-go. So he says that obscenity, it comes from khubth, filth, and lu'm. It comes from a person being low and mean. It comes from a person being ignoble. He's not an honorable person. He's not a high person. Rather, he himself is low on the inside. And that is how he talks and how he speaks. The Prophet ﷺ, he says, Laysa al-mu'minu. He said, the believer, he's not ta'an. He's not a person who always attacking people, defaming people, slandering people, disparaging people. You this, you that, you this, you that. He's not that type of person. That's not from his character. Wala la'ani. Nor is he a man who says, damn, God damn it, every 5 minutes. He doesn't curse people. He doesn't ask, you know, God curse you, go to hell. That isn't how he rolls. That's not the movement. That's not the believer. وَلَا الْفَاحِشِ وَلَا الْبَذِي. Nor is he a person who talks about sex, sexual intercourse, and sexual intimacy, and describing sexual organs and body parts and this, you're that, you're this, you're that, your mother this, your sister this, you're that. He doesn't talk about those things. That isn't his usloob. That isn't the way of the believer. He mentions another hadith. We'll move forward. He says, وَحَدُّ الْفُحْشِ. He says, in the definition of what is obscene, according to Islam, what is considered to be bad words, foul language, is at-ta'biru an al-umur al-mustaqbaha. Is you expressing things which are repulsive, which are reprehensible, things that are looked down upon, deplorable, something which is qabih, bi'ibaratin sariha, frank words, such as sexual organ, my such and such, my such and such. So your private part is supposed to be your private part. You're supposed to have shame. You're supposed to physically cover it. No one is supposed to see your private part, except for your wife, your spouse, your husband, your wife. So you're supposed to be shy with your private parts. You're not supposed to be touching your private parts, looking at your private parts, etc. So when you mention the private part in general, and then you mention a specific word, which is direct to the point. So you have these two things, and that equals lewdness. Talking about something which is supposed to be shameful, hidden, and then you do what? How do you speak about it? Indirectly or directly? Think about curse words in your language or your culture, where you come from. You come from this country or this island or this jazeera. Just think about the words. Something which is qabih and sarih, when you really want to curse someone. You tell them so on and so forth. The author, rahimahullah ta'ala, then says, listen to this now. He says, وَأَكْثَرُ ذَلِكَ, he says, and most of this pertains to sexual intercourse. Most of it. And that is because wicked men and wicked women, they use these words when they want to talk about illegal, illicit sex. Count the curse words now. Think about it. This song, this movie. What's the first person that he says? And 9 out of 10 times it's something pertaining to what? Some type of sexual act. You give someone the middle finger, Ahmed, what does that signal or symbolize? A what? Sexual act. Giving someone the finger. You call someone a a-hole. That's a what? That pertains to? Think about that now. Think of the wisdom of that. So there's a connection between cursing, lewdness, and zina. And that's another harm of being obscene with your speech. The movies that you watch, the music that you listen to, the people that you idolize, your co-workers, your friends, your buddies. Can a Muslim go to the NFL? Can a Muslim play in the NBA? Can a Muslim play professional sports? Who are you going to be around all day on the bus? It's a 7-hour ride, 5-hour flight. Who are you going to be around? People that look down upon someone who has a clean tongue. A mama's boy. You're this, you're that. They're going to call you all types of words if you what? If you don't use their language. If you don't use their language. And at worst, or at best, even if you don't use that type of language, you're going to be around it. And it's no longer going to be ugly. It's going to be normal to hear those types of expressions. The author, rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, وَأَهْلُ الصَّلَاحِ يَتَحَاشَوْنَ عَنْهَا. He says, righteous people, they don't have the nerve or the gall to use that type of language. They're too shy. They're too embarrassed. It's too shameful to talk about this part of the body, that part of the body, so on and so forth, to someone in an unnecessary manner. It's shameful. And just think about it. Something is wrong, you have to go to the doctors or your son, your daughter. What's the word that you use? In most cases, you want to say what? Private part. And the word private part is a very reserved term. Private part. Private part could be my leg. Private part could be front, could be back, could be male, be female. And only when you have to use the specific word for the genitalia, male, female, this specific part of my body, the doctor asks you. He needs to see, it's an emergency. You're bleeding, you're cut, you're wounded. But if that's not the case, righteous people, they never ever frankly discuss those things. Someone who has no shyness, no shame whatsoever in most cases, is something off with their piety. Unless it's a necessity. That's a different story. That's a what? That's a different story. If you're talking medical, or even in Islam, you discuss in a hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ speaks about a specific ruling. Man massa dhakarahu falyatawadda. That's one thing, right? إذا قعد بين شعبها الأربع ثم جهدها فقد وجب الغسل وإن لم ينزل. هذا شيء. The author rahimahullah ta'ala then says, the people of righteousness, they don't use this type of language. Rather, they use indirect expressions if and when they have to talk about stuff like that, indirectly. He then quotes Abdullah ibn Abbas, who said, "Inna Allaha hayyun kareemun ya'fu." Allah Azza wa Jal is very shy, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Abdullah ibn Abbas said this. He's what? Allah is hayy. He's very shy. And a man that suits His Majesty, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Kareemun. Allah is bountiful, generous, munificent, ever giving. Ya'fu. Allah pardons, and He loves to pardon. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He uses kinaya. He uses indirect expressions. Allah doesn't directly, frankly say it all of the time and every single time He speaks about these things. He says, وَكَنَّ بِاللَّمْسِ أَنَ الْجِمَاعِ. When Allah talks about sexual intercourse in the Quran, He uses words. And one of those words is lams, touching. That's it. أَوْ لَا مَسْلُمُ النِّسَاءِ. And you touched women. You have touched women, i.e. you slept with women. You had sexual intercourse with women. But Allah Azza wa Jalla, He only uses the indirect expression, touch them. And it's well known and it's understood, no sane, I quote, sane man in his right mind is going to touch a woman that's not his mother or sister or daughter or so on and so forth, except that what comes to his mind. Some type of desire. And if not, then that man is what? Ma'moon, he's what? He's lacking some type of what? Some type of sanity, some type of man, a taqa, يعني في إشكالية. طاقته ضعيفة. فعلا. Alright? So think of the wisdoms of not shaking a woman's hand that you're not related to. What's the big deal? It's just a handshake. It's just a handshake. It's just a hug. It's a co-worker, a friend, a cousin, a family friend. What's the big deal? Why are you Muslims so lustful? You Muslim men are always lustful. 4 wives, this, that. It's not the fact that Muslim men are always so lustful, but it is non-Muslim men, not all, but many, if not most, they have been emasculated through the culture, through the society, and they've been stripped of their manhood. So therefore, their normal level of lust, what it should be, is all the way down here. So a man who has the normal, natural way, he's looked at as being some type of, whatever the case may be. And if you don't believe this, just look at these different movements. Feminism, blue pill, red pill. If someone says men should be like this, men should be, he's a such and such, he's a chauvinist. He's a lust, he's full of lust, he's a this, he's a that. No, it's not that. It's natural. But these kuffar and these mushrikun, these people that we imitate and copy and follow and adore and obey and pretty much worship, they, as Allah tells us about shaitan, one of their greatest missions is to change the natural way of boy and girl. They want men to be weak men. They want men to be sissies. It's a fact. They want men to be feminine. And they want women to be rough and tough, masculine and manly. I don't need a man. I work, I got my own money, I'm tough, I know how to fight. Have you ever seen a female police officer? Seriously, this is just a question. Have you ever seen a female police officer that didn't have a major ego problem? Have you ever seen one? Pulled over in the airport, jail, prison, you're visiting someone, you're in jail. Have you ever seen a female person with a gun and a badge that was calm and chill? Hell, right? In my life, I haven't. Every now and then, it's well-known fact, you'll find a man, calm, pulls you over, hey, you were going a little fast, can you slow down for me? License, have a good one. You find a security guard, man, no problem. Have you ever seen a female person with a gun and a badge and a vest? That's easy logoing. Think about it. 9 out of 10 times she's what? She's an egomaniac. And it's a reason why. It's a reason why. So he says that Allah Azza wa Jalla, He spoke about intercourse with touching. That's the word that Allah used. Masis, lams, dukhul, dakhaltum bihinna. Allah says in you of dakhaltum, entered upon them. Dakhaltum bihinna, consummated, for argument's sake. That still isn't the same as so on and so forth. Did you consummate the marriage? Sheikh, I have a question. I got married last night. Me and my wife, we had some issues. We had to get a divorce. Is there an iddah? The first question I'm going to ask you is what? Did you consummate? That's the only word that I have to use. I don't have to say, did you sleep with her? Did you have sex with her? Did you this? Did you that? Did you this? Did you consummate the marriage? دخلت بها. The author, may Allah have mercy upon him, then says, وَهُنَاكُ عِبَارَاتٌ فَاحِشَةٌ. He says there are many words, many phrases that are deplorable, and in most cases they're used when you want to curse someone, point the finger at someone, degrade someone, humiliate someone, debase someone. All right, say something about a person in a state of anger, in a state of fighting, in which you're angry, you're riled up. All right, and these words they shouldn't be used. وَالْبَاعِثُ عَلَى الْفُحْشِ إِمَّا قَصْدُ الْإِذَاءِ وَإِمَّا الْإِعْتِيَادُ الْحَاصِلُ مِنْ مُخَالَطَةِ الْفُسَّاقِ وأهل الخبث واللؤم ومن عادتهم السب. He says, and the reason why people use these words is number one, harming someone. I want to insult you, so I call you a mother, such and such. What man would sleep with his mother? I'm insulting you. I'm cursing you out. Your wife, your girlfriend, your ex-wife, whatever, she wants to say, make you feel bad. How's she going to tell you? She's going to call you a such and such and a such and such. A P, blah, 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 blah. She's going to call you a female private part. Once again, going back to sexual intercourse. He says, and if that's not the case, al-i'tiyad, a person is accustomed to using that type of language. It's a habit. It's a normal thing, and that comes from mixing with wicked people, sinful people, evildoers. Being in a company of evildoers, whether they're Muslims who have weak iman, or whether they're kuffar who have no faith whatsoever.